or I don't want to. I know I was, intelligent enough, but my focus wasn't there. And I had no guidelines. My mom was working, and my sister was taking care of us. She was like 12 years older than me. You know what I mean? So when I'm 10, she's 22. So she was more like mom. So by the time I got to the 8th grade, learning became kind of difficult for me. So I repeated 8th grade. I went to the 9th grade, got to 10th grade. One Friday, the math teacher said, on Monday, we're going to start algebra. At the end of the class, I said to him, I'm going to quit school. Because what I'm going to do, I'm not going to need algebra. All I need is multiplication. He said, but William, you're going to need an education. There's more to it than just math. I said, yeah, but I want to be a barber. All I need to do is learn how to do it. He said, well, you're not blah, blah. So I dropped out of school in the 10th grade. And I bummed around and I don't know what I did, but I never had a job other than what I do for 6 months of my life, ever. I've never worked for anyone a year. So when I finally went to Barber College, got into business, I still didn't have anybody around me because I'm a black male in a female-dominated environment. The man who owned the salon came from New York, so his perspective of things is completely different than they are down here. So the way I learned had nothing to do with how people did things here. It had more to do with who trained me and what. So once I was trained, and to show you the spiritual progression of it, I came into the salon. It was a beauty salon, but the Lord put me in the salon, right? After about 2.5 years, after he had trained me into every aspect of what he did in connection with what I already knew, he died. But see, he moved from New York. The Lord moved him here to New York. His wife already lived there, so they came back home. My first job was right across the street from my mother's house, so I went over there. I didn't never get into a barbershop. I went to school to be a barber. I was a licensed barber, but I was never a barber. I went in, I did barbering for maybe 6-7 months. Lady came in, had a picture of a wig, and wanted to know whether or not Johnson could cut it. And all three of the stylists went up front, and they said, well, no. So I walked up, I said, what is it? Let me see. It was almost like a diagonal forward bar, so way back in the 70s. So they said, I said, well, I can do that. And the lady, and they said, well, yeah, see, I can do it. So I said, well, yeah, I'll do it. I said, have a seat right here. So my boss called me and said, listen, come here. He said, now, can you cut that woman's hair? Because see, the difference was, everybody was used to pressing combs. So our hair was not looked at straight. It was looked at natural. So when it became straight, all they did was straighten it, curl it, spiral, and there was no style. It was just, right? And then they put it for free. So once I got into the industry, someone walking with a magazine and said, can you do this? I went to a European school, all white. I was one of the only 2 blacks in the school. So I learned how to cut hair from zero, from somebody walking like this. We had to cut it just up above the ear and the bang in the front with scissors only. So when I got into work, these things were not difficult for me because I understood the dynamics, the mathematic dynamics of elevations, angles, and degrees. So it was easy for me. So I was doing something nobody else was doing in the industry. So I think that's where my popularity came from. Was my education was different than other barbers in the industry. I was a barber, but I cut straight hair. I never did 10 haircuts like mine in the whole time I went to school. I was in an all-white environment, so not a lot of black people came in to get the haircut. So as time went on, it was easy for me. Then I started just looking at West Coast magazines from white hair salons. And that's where I got the structure to do business. Because the order in which you set a business up is the strength that the building stands on. So having that foundation, when I left, after the first 10 years of my involvement in business, when I moved away from that position at Times Square, I had bought, several years ago, there was a company came here, Soul Sisters. There was a black company, national company of hair salons. And they were a second chance type organization where they would go to the prisons. Guys were going to be they would train them how to get a license to become a hairstylist. Now, once they got out of school, this company gave them a job. gave them a suit, gave them a dialogue, and they opened up. They were a subsidiary of J.C. Penney's, and they opened up salons all over the country. They came here and opened up a salon in Webb City, and the salon was there for, I guess, 6-8 months, whatever. What they do, they come to the city, they get on the radio, and they tell very aggressively, let people know we're moving into town. It's a new system coming in. We're coming in to take over. You know, we're going to show you how this is supposed to go, and blah, 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 blah. So when they came, this before I moved, they came in, they'll come in and say, we're going to do this, you know, it's intimidating. They're dressed all up in the middle of the day. Well, after they'd been there for 2 weeks, they would do hair for 2 weeks free. So a guy came and told me, I said, man, I'm going to tell you something. So we opened up a lot of salons across the state. I say, but I've never been nowhere where everybody told us, well, I'm here because it's free. I'm going back to Frog as soon as you finish. So that business went out of business, right? It was like a $40,000 salon. Back then, that was a whole lot of money. But I ended up buying it out of a wholesale sale, but going out of business sale. I think I paid about $3,000. I had it about 4 years, stored right next door. It was a 10-station salon. So when I moved on 22nd Avenue, I had everything I needed from a perspective that wasn't local. Because the way they put that salon together was more like a European salon. It wasn't like the ones that we had here. So the salon on 22nd Avenue was the first prototype of what I would do if I had my own salon. So I just created all kinds of different things in it that I wanted. Murals on the wall, keyhole openings, fireplace in the middle of the floor, separate rooms, all different kind of things. So that kind of set me apart. And another thing, I was in business. I wasn't just doing hair. It took me a while for that. That was the second chapter, I think. In the second 10 years, that was in the 90s. I had already opened up the business, but in the 90s is when I really got my head into making money and creating